start. Hello, everyone. Today is our meeting number 21. Isn't it exciting? And today is our practical meeting. So we will discuss a little bit of a message board, and we will see what we came up with our homework. How I'm mentioning all the time, the practical part is the most important. Information is a lot around. You can read anything, whatever you want, but if you don't practice, we will just, or if we won't practice, it will be just on the level of information in your head. That's it. And what I see all the time, people are saying, oh, I know that. And you know what, it become like a cliche to them. Yes, we know that, they know that, but they don't practice. And it becomes just sit in their heads and annoying them. Okay, but let's start with on a positive note. And I would like to start with our message board. Unfortunately, I don't see Noel because Noel posted that, and it's draw my attention. You probably seen it. Everything's got a moral if only you can find it. If anybody wants to say something about it, your opinion, how this proverb or idiom or quote resonates with you, I would love to listen. If not, I will continue. Yes, Richard.
Perhaps we can define moral in a way that moral is, as I've heard it, is a moral of a story, but it's got a definite meaning that perhaps could give us a little bit more perspective.
Yes, very good idea.
So the way that I understand it is that it happens to a lot of us that sometimes we're going about life and we don't know that there's a purpose in our lives, that there's a reason why we're here, there's a reason why we're doing things. And if you just take the time to meditate on it and find the reason, like in another group that I was that I'm on, which is Christians prayers, someone was saying, you know, pray for me, I'm 28, I feel like I haven't accomplished anything. And you know, I told her, look, first of all, you probably have accomplished a lot more than you give yourself credit for. And second of all, remember that when you pray for something, is not to hear what you want to hear, is to get clarity on something that might make you uncomfortable. So to me, everything's got a moral. If only you can find it. Is what's the point of, what's the moral behind the story I'm creating with this group? What's the purpose behind my work? That's what I got from it.
Okay. I actually I see your point, and I like it. Richard?
Okay, so the definition says a lesson, especially one concerning what is right or prudent, that can be derived from a story, a piece of information, or an experience. Absolutely.
Thank you for clarification. Yes, this doesn't say everything got a morality, right? It says everything got a moral. So let's continue. I will just remind you, so Noel made me to work a little bit on it. I actually was thinking for quite a while, maybe 3 days I contemplating on it, I can say pretty much, and something didn't work with me. Something like the second part didn't match the first part, or the second part didn't work. So I wasn't really satisfied. You know, when you read an idiom or quote and you, wow, That's wonderful. Yes, it's exactly. But this something didn't work with me. And because I am right now a big fan of Seven Habits, if only you can find it. And this was my question. And for some case, I right away remember about Brian. I remember he likes something, and he even not even he saying very often that so what I'm writing, everything and everybody has a moral. That's like has a story behind his story. That's absolutely obvious, or a story behind his behavior. And I was asking if and the Lewis saying if only you can find, but my question, do we really need to find it? Where will it bring us if we will start to look for somebody's story behind it? Brian, if you can see where I'm leading, what can you say? Yes, please.
Well, I don't know if my answer would be the one that you're referring to, but what I'm thinking first off, what I'm thinking. Oops. Okay, sorry about that. First off, what I'm thinking is maybe the way you're reading is a little too literal. I guess in the sense that what I look at that quote as saying is that in general, you know, we think, well, you know, something happens and there's no reason for it or whatever, but if you want to look at if you want to find the reasons it happens, there actually are reasons behind it. Anyhow, I'm sorry, I don't really have too much to say, I guess. So
no, I like your and Sebastian and Richard opinion, and what I can say that I still have slightly different or maybe really different opinion, and this is not about the unity of our opinions. If we would say this is that, and everybody say yes, Lena, that's right, and Richard is saying this is this, and we are yes, Richard, that's right. This wouldn't be no interesting conversation, right? So Richard, please.
Well, I say that we can learn from our own mistakes and learn how to not make those same mistakes again. But even better, I think, is to learn from someone else's mistakes. And so rather than say mistake, you could say moral or the lesson of a story. You could learn a lesson from somebody else's story. And if it's appropriate, apply it to your life. So I think there's some value there.
I like it. I like it. Hello, Patrick. Hello, Noel. Noel, we are discussing your proverb, what you post. So I absolutely love what you said, and I can say that I didn't see that side. And while I had my opinion, it was almost like 100. But listen to you, I am absolutely happy to not change my opinion, to enrich my opinion. I see what you say. And Richard, Patrick, Noel, would you like to add anything before I go with my opinion?
Oh, I didn't know what the what what the question or the
So we are
topic of discussion
discussing.
is.
Yeah, we are discussing Noel quote, which he put from Lewis Carroll. Everything's got a moral if only you can find it.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw that post, I had to think about it a little bit from a perspective of like, yeah, you know, we all have morals, right? I mean, so automatically I think of like, well, what is the counterfactual, not counterfactual, but what is the other side? Like for example, you know, let's say if I belong to a gang, right? a gang has moral within their own little cult that ties to what Richard mentioned about tribalism, right? We have the same mindset, but outside of that, the set of moral might not be the right ones that to fit into the bigger organization. So I think it, so what I'm trying to get at is, yeah, the moral is all relative compared to where you're at, where you're looking at, through what lens, right? Are we talking about like relative moral, or are we talking about like absolute principle center ethical moral? That's different, right?
Right.
Because where because where you look at things, you need to compare some sort of benchmark, and I think most people use the benchmark they're familiar with, not so much the benchmark what universal principle apply, which is different, right?
Mm-hmm. Agree.
So that's why I'm like, you know what, this is a little bit, basically what I'm saying is Noel's question is very, very difficult, is what I'm saying. So I know I'm smart. I'm not smart enough to know that to have an answer for that, is what I'm saying.
No, you're fine, Patrick. We enjoy your wisdom and your insight all the time. So yes, how I mentioned, I was contemplating on this too, but let me go ahead and enrich or add, not enrich, add to the pool of your fabulous answers. So when I told that I remember Brian right away, this seems to me a little bit in the area of our concerns. It's not the area of influence. Because see, we will start to look for moral of something or someone. Really, can we find that moral? Will it be the real moral, or it would be our fantasy? What we might guess it might be, and how it will be then our action. And while I was thinking about that, I was decided to go deep into Alice in Wonderland, because I watched when I was a child, and since that I didn't reread it. Have so much things, just I didn't was much interested. Though I've heard all the time that it's like a very deep philosophical like points there and the wisdom, but still I didn't read. But what I found in information, it was really surprising to me. So this book actually was never intended to have a moral. Lewis Carroll told it solely for the amusement of his child friends. Although the story was expanded to publication, Alice's Adventure in Wonderland, the author never changed his intention, and this book actually became the first children's book without a moral. It's just amusement for children. So if this book is the first children book without a moral, how can we draw the moral from whatever is said there? So this is my adding, and what is your thinking, Patrick?
Well, it's exactly what you said, right? The book, was meant to have no moral, but yet we find meaning in it, right? So therefore, it's basically our own personal experience. So therefore, right, we're basically looking at through the lens of our own personal experience, what we think moral is, right? So that's the thing. I mean, it goes back to Richard mentioned many times before. I think we have to define terms first before we actually, have a discussion about it. Mainly because we all assume certain terms. That's why I stopped using the word moral. I use the word ethics or principle for that reason, because people understand it. And also the fact that moral supposedly have a religious connotation, where actually principle and ethic actually has a center into religious disciplines, right? Religion is really a discipline, a practice. That's all that is. People make a big deal of it, but that's their choice, right? But like you said, something has, supposedly had no more. It's like the Matrix, same thing, right? Matrix supposed to be entertainment, but a lot of people do a lot of things with it. Same thing with this book, as well as
Yeah.
many other books, right? But that's what's so interesting about it. It's the fact that it tests our thinking, right? From a perspective of, connecting with other people, right? Of what it means, right? Meaning like, going back to what Richard talked about, like, oh, people don't understand each other. Is it a tribalism thing, right? Even, collectively, tribalism to me is just, a group of people, doesn't matter whether they're in physical proximity across the world, have the same mindset. That's all that is, right? So if you break that down to one thing, it's like, oh yeah, you know what? I believe this, so I have a million people believing the same thing I do. So you're wrong, even though they might not be the case, right? The flat Earth society still exists. Don't know why, but they do.
Yes, great, Agent. You said interesting point, and I again have, and I agree with you. Let me look from the other side or next side. How about this? It's testing our mind. We can create any meaning from even the thing which has no moral, has no story, but we can create. If we want, we can create excuses. We can create excuses, guys, to anything. If we love a person and that person do not behave how we want, we can create excuses for him or for her. If we don't like a person, we can create a horrible story how that person is horrible. But in fact, that person is not that horrible. This is how our mind is working. Richard, please.
Well, I didn't read the book, but I did see the movie. But I recall that there's some obvious things to me, even though the intent wasn't to have a moral. There is a certain back and forth between what we would think is good and bad. There's that particular queen that had these little army of people, and I forget what the reasoning behind it, but certainly if I was looking for a moral to the story, I could use some form of good and bad facing off against each other and good winning and something like that.
Beautiful. Agent Sebastian, I'm sorry. Richard appeared first, and I thought that now I remember. One moment. So I agree with you, Richard, but let's see which year was that story written. 1800s. And if our children grew up on Tom and Jerry, when they do not only killing and cutting and squeezing each other is the fun thing. I grew up with different story. I grew up where was the good is good, and good was always winning bad. And that was even in 1800s, when even I wasn't present. And Mr. Covey was saying that he was studying the success literature for over 200 years ago, which was prolonged, remember? And he said from that point that we switched from ethic, we switched to personality. And before it, the ethic of character, where courage, honesty, faith was very valuable. And right after World War I think, we switched to ethic of personality. So this was the reflection of that time. And for us, even this thing without moral, we can find the moral. Thank you, very good, Agent. Yes, Sebastian.
So there's something that I feel is being lost in translation. There's a difference between the moral of a story and moral values. I think that this, especially the English language, does that a lot, to where there's an added word next to it that'll give that word a completely different meaning. I think that we're concentrating in moral values rather than the moral of a story, especially being understood that way by me when you read, about what the author was not planning to have a moral to the story. He just wanted something to entertain, children or whatever it was. But regardless of what of what the purpose is, there's always a moral of every story. There's always a lesson to be learned. There's always,
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, there's sayings that came from this book. I mean, who here has said you don't want to go down that rabbit hole? That comes from this book. That means and there's also, other ways of saying that doesn't come from this book. You don't want to open that can of worms, meaning, look, you're just going into such a big discussion or such a huge problem that, it looks like a little hole, you're just following a rabbit, but there's another world in there that you just do not want to go in there. There's a crazy witch. There's a guy with mushrooms, and there's a guy with crazy tea, and there's a guy with a clock that just seems like a madman, literally. So to me, this just means, like, look, even when you think that your life means nothing, or that story, there's no point to that story. There's always a lesson to be learned. This has nothing to do, in the way I see it, has nothing to do with ethics or what you believe is right or wrong. But usually, especially when we come from a different language, we want to overanalyze that one word, and we expect there to be more context to it. So we take it to wherever, and we kind of get stuck on that paralysis by analysis, so to speak. So I think we're trying to see this quote as a moral ethic rather than the moral of the story. Does that kind of make sense at all?
Sebastian, I agree with you, and thank you for this clarification. And actually, I started from that. I said that everything got a moral, not a morality. And fortunately, this word moral, it's complete the same in Russian. So this is not confusion, and nobody, I think, thought that it's morality, and exactly why I started from that. We even have a very we are talking about it all the time. For example, I can tell you in Russian, мораль сей истории такова. Мораль. Мораль сей истории такова. And Vita can translate, it's a very famous fable, and what I understand, and just the story behind everybody can have. So I completely agree with you anyway. Thank you for clarification. What I meant that how the way this fable or story is said, everything's got a moral if only you can find. This is the point. It doesn't say everything's got a moral. Respect everything. Respect everybody. It's kind of would be different, but this is pointed that somebody has did something, and I need to go and find why he did this. Or I need to go and learn why, and that why will bring us to nowhere. We need to operate what we have right now. And for example, we have some problems. Do we need to learn what the cause of that problem? It won't bring us to nothing. It will bring us to nowhere. We need to deal what it is right now and go from there. Yes, Brian.
So I want a couple of comments, I guess. Lena, I was going to say kind of along the lines of what you're saying, basically that, Sebastian mentioned it, but to a certain extent, you get lost in this paralysis by analysis. If you get lost, you can get lost looking for morals and stuff like that and everything. And sometimes you just kind of have to, do, it's like,
Mhm.
or just accept that other people are just going to do, and stop looking too closely at why or whatever. Sometimes, I mean, not always, but sometimes it's good to avoid that. The other thing I wanted to say is, I wanted to sort of, there's a little story that I know of, that I wanted to mention, that's kind of up this line to sort of give an idea of like how the human mind works, I guess. And the so I was very interested in linguistics for a while, and I was reading about these experiments they were doing. Basically, they were trying to figure out like how the human mind like understands language and how it learns language. And so what they did is basically this group of researchers, they had a person, probably one of the best. He learned like, I don't know, like 8 languages or something like that, and he had this amazing ability to learn languages. And then they took a group of like 10 people who were just average, right? And what they did is they made up a language, just completely made it up. They made up a bunch of words and all that kind of stuff, and they fed it to the 2 groups, right? And this was not a language at all, so it wasn't intended
Wow.
to be a language. It was just completely made up. And they fed it to the 2 groups. Okay, this one guy who managed to figure out, like who could understand, very literate in languages, and this other group of people who were very average. And the thing is the guy who could learn languages very well could make nothing of it. He couldn't understand it at all, right? He could not do anything with it. But the other group somehow or another interpreted it and everything and created a language out of this. Obviously it was complete bullshit. It wasn't anything because the language wasn't anything, but somehow or another their mind, they were determined to find order there. So I guess I was sort of thinking about this story
Mhm.
sort of in the course of what we were saying about morals or moral and everything, sort of with what Richard and Patrick were saying. But basically the point is that our mind is sort of designed to sort of capture and interpret what we see.
Exactly.
that and it's I think that's sort of, but at a certain point we have to move on beyond trying to if you want to find the moral, it's probably there, but there's a paralysis by analysis, I guess.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Brian. Very, very good idea. Patrick, please.
Just this is right here. There's all this dialogue among us, right? It is exactly what Habit 5 is about, right? Because well, first of all, Sebastian, I want to thank you for validating like English is a pain in the ass language to learn, right? So I'm married to a linguist, so she and I have conversation about this all the time, right? Because it doesn't make sense, right? It's not like Cyrillic, it's not like Arabic or even Chinese, right? Or German, right? Very like straightforward. English, pain in the ass. So second thing is you think about it, right? If we basically redefine moral as purpose or intention, right? Then then it makes more sense. Like, oh yeah, everything's got a purpose. We just got to find out what it is, right? But on top of that, you layer language, which could be confusing, and on top of that, you layer that language might not make sense. Like what Brian says, like our mind tend to find patterns that sometimes it doesn't exist. So there's like third order of difficulty when we basically communicate with somebody, right? Because it could be like their thinking is not in place, right? Because they have a different paradigm, right? Win, lose, whatever, right? And they might have a their emotion might be, not the greatest, right? And they're like, and they might be at a stress point. So when you try to communicate somebody, right, those are at least those three things that you have to deal with from the other side. But at the same time, those three things you have to deal with within yourself as well. So there's like 6 orders of difficulties just to like connect with somebody. Who wants to do that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Patrick. Like a good conclusion. I think we can move ahead. Thank you, Noel. It was a very nice quote, and we discussed it for 30 minutes. Do you want to say something?
No, pretty much it summed it up. I like the fact that I like the fact, what's I'm reading my phone, keeps a bunch of stuff that keeps popping up on my phone. I like the fact that Sebastian mentioned the fact that a lot of things people have changed the interpretation of moral depending what background you come from, because we all want it to mean something, So thank you, Sebastian, for adding that. I would have definitely added that to what I written had I thought about it. But thank you for coming up with it.
Thank you, Neil. And I
Hello?
want to say thank you.
Yes.
Did you finish? I want to say thank you because
Yes, I finished.
right now, thank you, Neil. Right now, I enrich my opinion. What do you think if like this? Before I was thinking only about for somebody else. Now I can say that from any situation, if I will at least understand a person, I can learn ourselves as well. Myself as well. So I mean this. And I want to mention very briefly toward this as well. Hello, Monique. Very nice to see you. I was actually a little bit hurt for a couple of days because in our group, one member left us, and you probably know who is that person. It's actually really not important to know the name. And why I was withdrawn, because that person was with us from the very beginning. And we are actually 5 months together. And when a person is living without a word, what do you think, what can we feel, right? So, and my question is, do I need to look for moral? Do I need to look why was it happen? Will I be able to figure out why? I never will able to figure out, right? So this is from his side or her side. But from my side, yes, from this story, I can learn myself. So I can find the moral for myself and just dig into myself. Maybe I did something. Maybe it's the situation was that. So I can find the moral for myself. And this you helped me to clarify it more. But what I would want to say, just for very, very brief, guys, there is exist unwritten rules, right? Like rules of mutual respect to each other. And it's unwritten rules. But what, for example, who are with us for long, you know that many people will come and go, right? And you agree that we are relationship. Right, we created our relationship. And for example, people who are coming 1 to 2 to 3 even times, they can come and go. They don't need to say anything, right? But guys, just remember, we are an elevator and we are saying hello. And when we are going out of elevator, what we are saying to each other, have a good day. Isn't it nice? It's nice. But then not but then we are, for example, 1 month know each other, right? It's already, we have some responsibility for that. It's already like unwritten rules. Would it be nice to just to text to a group, hey, I won't be able to participate anymore, thanks, bye, right? But if we are for longer, the longer we are in duration, the longer kind of we create a relationship. Wouldn't be nice to write something nice, right? Even if we don't think that way, it just, is it not about ourselves? It's about the other people, right? It's just about the other people, and to think about other people, it's already public victory. It's already something higher than the first, I'm successful and I'm not interested in you. It's thinking about yourself, but we are already in the habit number 5, and we already studying our interrelationship. And how Mr. Covey said, guys, interrelationship, it's where our life is going, actually. It's where we are living. It's where we are striving. It's where we are finding happiness and satisfaction. Just imagine for a minute, we are, I see, guys, I will ask you just in a minute. Just imagine the situation, we are alone. For example, I'm alone. Something happened to people and I'm by myself. Oh, no, I don't want about myself. Can you imagine, everybody, please imagine you are one in the world and everything is around. We can go and eat whatever we want. We can go to any grocery store and just take, nobody is there. We can wear whatever we want. We can wear Gucci, Mucci, Gucci, whatever, any brand. Guys can drive Ferrari, every day different. Today is blue, tomorrow red. Then you can drive Bentley. You can drive boats, yes. Guys, how long you will enjoy being alone in Gucci with the purses all over, with the jewelry, driving Ferrari? How long will you enjoy that? Probably not long. I think this is a very good example to imagine, to understand how much relationship is important in our life. So, and I just wanted to offer, let's be kind to each other and start to practice. This is actually practice. This is not that I will be good when I finish this book, I will be good with somebody else who I want. No, I remember Patrick was saying from Leo Tolstoy, be kind to everything that is around you. This is the level of who you are. It's actually showing not somebody else, it's showing you. We had recently a conversation and it was like what to do if I don't care about somebody else. Yes, we can don't care about somebody else, but let's see, remember our dependent, independent, and interdependent level. And what the answer to me, please, how much person on dependent level will be care about somebody else, or on whom care person independent level? You can answer if you know, because Noel and Richard is waiting. I don't know, do they want to answer? I will ask you guys just in a moment. Yes, Richard, do you want to say how much dependent person will be care about, or of whom he will be care?
I would say the independent level, you care only about yourself.
Exactly. You care only about yourself. What is on independent level? Patrick?
Well, independent is basically, it's working in terms of independent relations, like, hey, I'm going to take care of myself. I expect you to take care of yourself. and that's about it. But here's the thing, right? I want to make a in terms of context, right? I want you to know Asian culture, right? In general, right? We don't communicate well. Okay, just want you to know. So, and also in Asian culture, we put work above, relationship in usually. So that
Mhm.
could be a reason, right?
Right,
So
right.
it's a function of perspective, right? So and sometime, right? People might not think that it's a big deal, but within their own view of things, right? So I want to put that in context. Again, I don't know, right? I don't
Uh,
know what the
Agree,
backstory is, but
agree. However, I agree, and let's do not however, and we are in America, and it's nice to refresh this our unwritten rules. And I will finish, and I will ask Noel and Richard what you wanted to say. Keep in your mind, please, guys. And so what I would just summarize quickly: on dependent level, a person of course cares about only himself and complain about somebody else. On interdependent level, people start to take care and be about the family, right? Independent person care about the family. And guys, only on interdependent level, people are care about everything and everybody around. Of course, including the family. So this we are showing our level. Yes, and now, Noel, what you wanted to say, please?
All right, hold on. I'm sorry. I'm trying to unmute here. No, what I was gonna add earlier when you were talking about the person that had left the group. I was gonna say that that this group this group helps out. Well, at least to myself, it's helped me out on a bunch of other things. Generally, because we speak about a bunch of other stuff. In a broad way. And the person that left, maybe they don't want to and this group is we meet once a week. We talk about 7 habits and a bunch of other stuff in life. We're a bunch of adults. We all respect each other. Honestly, it's easier than going to the gym, meeting with this group. It's very easy for everybody. All you have to do is pick up a phone and jump on a Zoom call for like an hour or two. And I feel bad too. I feel bad the person left. That person should have at least sent a nice message to the group and said, you know what, I don't know, this doesn't fit me anymore. And
It's what I was talking, yeah.
Yes. That's what I wanted to add earlier when we were talking about it.
Yes, thank you, Noel. Richard, please.
Okay, well, not judging the person. We're just judging the action.
Right,
right. And so not knowing any background either, I think this studying that we've done over several months now should have provided some level of
exactly.
habit that would, and they should be habits that would help us behave in certain ways towards others. And it's surprising that after this many months and such dedication, that the 7 habits kind of went out the window. But I don't know the situation. It's possible that there could be something external that was so pressing that it overruled everything. So that's my comment.
Thank you, guys. It's only what no judging. It's just learning from the situation and see from the both of sides. And absolutely, from all my heart, that person is a wonderful person, and we wish that person all success and happiness, and we can say that person was awesome. So can we do this? Can we do to that person that? Yes, he was, and she was. I just was saying he or she was awesome. Okay, unfortunately, that person for some case blocked me. as an organizer, I try to send a message just to make sure that nobody offend me or somebody do not offend that person, but that person block me. Okay, let's move ahead. We wish all happiness. This was actually, we can skip. This is one of my favorite proverb, one of the favorite proverb of Mr. Covey, that do know my mind is developed exactly as much as I am capable of. Focus on something constructive, influencing what I can influence, and not worry about what I can't influence. This proverb has always helped me in some difficult situations. Because what we are doing, we right away focus on something destructive, right? On something what was painful, what was hurtful, and we are circling and circling them. That. So this is I wanted to share with you. And we are moving forward. We are right now, we'll talk about Richard Post. So he now, first for almost 1 hour, Noel was a troublemaker. But now let's talk about Richard and Patrick. So he said this, while thinking about habit 5, I concluded that many people do not intend to understand others. Right, agree. Why do so many not understand this basic need? And this kind of, I had alarm right away in my head. Let's read again. Why so do many not understand this basic need? Is it really a basic need? Guys, we are talking about habit number 5. So this is really, this is even, I can tell you, you remember this? This is even not the independent level. This is interdependent level. How dependent person could have this need? Dependent person blaming everybody and everything around, right? Independent person think about himself, how great he is, and only interdependent person are able to think about somebody else. Yes, Patrick.
You know, I'm so glad you point that out. I didn't even think about it. And, you know, to defend what Richard was trying to say, and I think, and again, right, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. I'm just thinking like, having a limited understanding of how you operate. He's thinking about like on a group level, right? On like, basically organization to organization level to say like, hey, it's so, as an organization, it's so important to understand other, but if you break the organization down to the individual level, the basic need is not for me to understand somebody. The basic need is for somebody to understand me.
Exactly.
Right? So I think that, so I'm so glad you mentioned that. So thank you for pointing that out.
Brian, thank you, Patrick.
Well, I as a individually, I can say myself, I have long struggled to communicate with people. I think, and one thing I've noticed many times is that oftentimes people will, think. I mean, we've said this before, that that people will interpret what you're saying in any way they want to, and a lot of times it's really frustrating because, like, they don't, for me anyhow, when I'm trying to communicate to people, like, they don't understand what I'm trying to say, or they misinterpret it. And I've actually been down this road many times myself. But I do think that it is a basic need to be understood by others. I mean, we can't really do, I mean, think about it. We can't do anything in life if someone doesn't understand us. I mean, you can't you can't go to a grocery store and buy food if you can't communicate with with the other people there. You can't get married. I mean, there's so many things. You can't go to work if the people can't understand you. So it really is, I mean, fundamentally, it's a basic need to be understood. I mean, that's something that you need to have at the start. I mean, and there's a thing about understanding like the basic words of what someone's saying, and then there's understanding the messages they're trying to convey, and the two things aren't necessarily the same thing. And to Richard's question here, I think why people don't really understand it is because, well, I think a lot of times, particularly as you get older, you just don't, I mean, you stop really, getting outside of yourself. I mean, you're sort of caught up in the way you think of things and everything, and you sort of stop really thinking about maybe, interpreting or listening to what other people have to say. It just doesn't, you just sort of lose, or if you ever had, which I don't think most people ever really build, is the habit of, trying to understand what anyone else is saying. You're sort of, I don't think most people ever even learn that to begin with. But I do really think it is a basic need. It's something that we all need. And I speak more from personal perspective because I've struggled with that so many times, is trying to get, other people to understand what I'm trying to say. So yeah, I guess to me, I think it's as much just because, we as humans, we don't, particular, we don't at a certain point we stop trying to to listen to other people and stuff like that, and get more caught up in the way we think they're saying it and stuff like that.
Brian, I see everything what you said, and there is no such a thing like you are saying something wrong. This is about clarification. Do know if we will say that this is the basic need, what you will come, let's take your words, and you will come to a person who is independent level, and you will start to communicate. What dependent person will do? Dependent person, if he won't understand, he will blame to you. Or you will say, hey, David, this is basic need. You need to understand me first. And David will say, Brian, do you know that it's all your fault? You won't be able to put into dependent person that idea how you want to say us that it's a basic need. It's advanced level. It's advanced level and person only on with knowledge. How is it going? With knowledge. Only after knowledge person will understand that it, how you're saying, become actually a basic need, but it's really not basic need. It's actually it's shelter, it's food and clothes. This is basic need. Then it's going something else, and on independent level, it's I don't know, success, it's my self-esteem, and on an interdependent level, it's will go habit number 5. But we don't need to argue. We listen to you, and we see your point, and we said our opinions. Yes, Richard, please.
I see a little bit that my question wasn't completely well stated. And so if I first say that it's not a need, it's more of a skill, let's say.
Better.
But the skill, the basic skill that we need to have is to be able to understand others. And a lot of people, or many people, do not have that skill, which is a reason why we're all in
completely agree. Completely agree.
Trying to learn these skills. But overall, we're intentionally good. But if we weren't here discussing this, we might go through life thinking that nobody wants to listen to me. instead of knowing that in order to be understood, you must first understand.
I completely agree with you. What is the basic skill? First, to talk, then to communicate, and only after to listen. Nobody was born with listening skills. We need to practice, and the talk, it's first skill. Listen, it's already a higher skill, and habit number 5, even higher. Okay, we said all our opinions. Let's continue. And Patrick is saying that I think ego rather than tribalism. I completely agree with you. So what I would say that ego and humility is actually a very, very good answer. Just again, humility is the first step. Let's look at humility and dependent level. How much humility and dependent level? Really 0. How much humility in independent level? 1 to 2, right? Yes, and the humility we have only in interdependent level. So guys, what I want to say, I don't want to contradict and say that you are wrong. No, we are all right. But when we put things on the correct places, it will be for us just much easier. If, for example, Brian will talk to dependent person, he will know that the dependent person doesn't have this basic need of habit number 5. None, 0. And that person independent in dependent level don't have any humility because that person only blaming somebody else for that. How much we can ask from him habit number 5? Not much, right? So this is only my point. So, and again, humility we can see only in interdependent law. So this is also not the first step, it's actually advanced step. And we will look what Richard answer. Yes, ego and lack of humility can be at the root. I would say, yes, ego and the lack of humility is the root. So actually, yes, it's the root of do not have the basic need. So I completely agree that this is much more like almost everything is covered here. Is anybody wants to add? Okay, and I don't remember. So what was this? I talk about. I thought about for some case Jesus that he said that love one another. Yeah. This I remember now. He was talking about interdependent relationship. He didn't say. I remember Patrick. Actually. Not Patrick, Sean. Sean was saying that Patrick, you were saying, guys, the 2 main commandments, right, from Jesus: love God and love your neighbor. So see, he didn't say love yourself, then love God, and then your neighbor, right? Then he didn't say something else, love God, then yourself, then your neighbor. No, he said love God and love your neighbor. So this is, even though in the Bible is said how important the interdependent relationship. Thank you so much. And our homework, ta-da-dam, is anybody wants to share what you did for this week? It's actually almost 2 weeks we are on this homework. Please.
I'm sorry, Lena. You said share what you did with what you did
Yes,
the past 2 weeks. Is that what you said?
Yes, this was a homework which right now is on the screen. And we were doing this homework according whatever you have and whatever you can share with us. Everything will be appreciated. Yes, Sebastian, please.
Sebastian, you're on mute, buddy.
Yes, we don't hear you.
You see, I was I was actually doing on that one, the close your ears and see what other people look like when they're talking. I was testing you guys. Do you want to go one by one, or do you want to just talk about it as a whole? You want to go step by step?
This is about what we did. So whatever you
Correct.
did, for example, you did maybe number 5 or number 2 or number 3,
Well,
whatever
I
is
went
on
through all
your
of them.
heart.
I went through all of
Wow.
them.
So we are excited
Um,
to listen. Yes, go ahead,
So,
please.
and again, it was more of putting thought to it, because a lot of those, especially this past couple of years, some of them you've put in place. But this has been a couple of years to where seeking to understand before being understood has been really complicated, because I feel that all of us felt the way that what's happening to me hasn't happened to anybody else. The way this pandemic's hitting me hasn't been hitting anybody else. That was a very common theme to this, or at least the way I thought. And you start thinking of, so in which relationships have I been taking more than I've been giving, which puts it in the red. And that has taken me to do a lot of analyzing about my marriage, about my friendships, about my business, is what I went in to do. Now, because of Zoom, also sometimes you're seeing people interact, and you're kind of seeing their body language, because you get really used to, if you work through this through Zoom, you learn how to be doing a presentation and reading people's body languages maybe more than ever before. So it was very interesting to me to kind of think about those things, that that how that has changed the way I approach everybody, because I'm a lot more, or I try to be more in tune with the way they react. And the other thing was something that I started doing a little bit ago, a couple of weeks ago actually, because I heard it from someone. I'm not going to mention the name because it's a political figure, and these days is a little bit of a complicated subject. But he was saying that whenever his wife comes to him with a problem, his question immediately is this a listen to me, honey, or is this a help me solve it issue? Is this a I just want you to hear me out issue, or is this a I need your help to solve it issue? So that to me was something that really helps put into perspective the empathy part of it. And if you're in sales, you learn there's a reason why God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. You got to listen twice as what you speak. So those are the things that I kind of thought about this, and more than really do homework, it was think about it, and what can you do to be more empathetic? What can you do to listen more? What can you do and by seeing people's reactions and understand, the electricity went away a little bit, and I saw someone had left the group the other day, and but I'm new to this, so I don't really know any backstory. But I by hearing what you guys were saying, not to go back to that, but now doing this does it really matter why someone did? Are you really trying to look into the moral of that story that much, where it's going to eat into you, and why did they leave? Why did it block me? Just try and be more empathetic next time. See if we can, understand a little bit more what other people are saying. And if not, then you can't change everybody. That's kind of what I did with this. I don't know if it's wrong or right. It's just the way I took that homework. Try to understand a little bit more, and be more open-minded to other people's needs rather than yours.
Okay, thank you, Sebastian. I just can comment, and anybody wants comment on Sebastian homework, and I will comment as well. Okay, so of course, definitely we appreciate what you did and your thoughts. What I would just say, guys, that this is much better than if somebody didn't do anything. But Mr. Covey actually asking to do real, do. Thoughts is the first step. So Sebastian, very great job. You did the first step. But we actually need to do. Do you remember when we shared think win-win? I called to that woman and I talked to her and I used the all techniques and methods step by step what Mr. Covey said, and I restore. I came to win-win situation. Was unbelievably difficult. I was going, I was preparing like for 3-4 days, and I was thinking about it. And do you remember Mr. Covey also was talking that he sent some tension between one man, and that man was a key man, so very strong man, and their relationship become very tough. So he decided to do that. And you know, he was preparing for that. He was writing what he will say to him, what he will do. And do you know what he shared? He said that I was shaking. Before to meet that person, I was shaking. So can you imagine Covey with his experience, he was shaking. And I can tell you, I had that experience the same. How easy just do not go and keep like, okay, yes, that relationship which I restored would go to south, but I restored that relationship and it was extremely difficult. So what I want to say that we need to actually do. So what he's saying, select a relationship which is your emotional bank account is in red. I think everybody has that kind of relationship. Are you ready to prepare to come back to think win-win, write what you will say, call to that person and really talk to him or to her? Are you ready for that? It's really difficult. But this is exactly what we need to do. And listen first. Richard, please.
Well, I can't say that I did all of these steps, but I did use some of the conversation here to address my relationship with my daughter, which the emotional bank account is definitely in the red. And so we ended up having lunch together, and I could feel the tension. And so my first action was to ask her to, tell me what's on your mind. And after reading through Covey's description of his conversation with his son, and the last part of it where you kind of imply that you understand by repeating back what they're telling you, I went through that process. I just repeated back what she would tell me. And sure enough, eventually it was my time to talk. And I think she was more receptive to listening to me at that point.
Awesome.
And so hopefully those conversations continue. But that's the one thing that I took away from Habit 5.
Great job, Richard. Anybody else? Okay, you can think. I can share with you. I also will try to be short like Richard and Sebastian. So I actually did twice, and I look for and I select a relationship where my emotional bank with that person was in red. So it was one of my friends. You know, the situation right now, it's very difficult. And of course, I worry and I called, she's in Russia, and she got very emotional, but she was telling her story, and right now in Russia is going a big brainwashing, unfortunately. And I tried to tell from my point of view, and that actually was completely different. So she got very emotional, and I decided to stop. And after that, we just like say goodbye, and after that, everything was fine. She started to send me very some information supporting her point of view, and I actually wanted to stop that, and I asked her, what do you want to really tell me? And she got even more offended, and I understood that it's like I need to call. So I call. Actually, I didn't want to call because her information was rude. For some case, it was like really they was saying bad words about America, and I'm living here about so it was not appropriate. If not COVID, I wouldn't call to her. But I called her, and do you remember we were studying, Mr. Covey said to his son, not said, was comment while he was talking to a son. He said, while son is talking and quiet, like not calm, I can talk, be logical and influence. But as soon as a person become emotional, I need to stop and back up to empathic listening. So it's what I use. I called to her and I asked Natasha, what's going on? Can you tell me, what do you think? What do you want to tell me by those videos? And when she started to talk, I understood I cannot stop her. I didn't say a word because it's all was emotions. It was really difficult because everything what she was saying was not my point, not my belief, or not my what I wanted to say. But I used Mr. Covey point, and I didn't say a word. And at the end, when when she said everything, and I felt like she's like she said like this. So I just was able after that to set a couple of sentences, and I decided that it's enough because she actually not got it, but she heard me. And after that, we actually fine now. We left, not left, I say goodbye to each other on a kind note, not on what was before. So I consider that I don't have red flag right now in our relationship with her. Anybody else? Okay. Oh, Brian, wonderful. Say please, tell us.
Well, I guess I wasn't really thinking about it quite in the same lines, but I know just today I spent. I talked to my mom for about 3 hours. We were on a Zoom call before the Zoom call, and I mean I haven't really seen. I haven't you know I haven't seen my parents in about, I don't know, now it's been about almost 20 years. I haven't been there in about 20 years, and I haven't seen them in a long time. But over the last year, we've been communicating a lot more, and I know it was good to to talk to my mom and stuff, and both my mom and my dad, and we had a really nice conversation, and I just trying to practice. Well, I don't even
Nice.
I don't even really view it as practicing, because it's kind of just more or less what I do. But just listening to what my mom says and stuff, and and try to just understand her. I guess I don't really think of it practicing per se, because it's more or less just kind of, you know, just communicating with them and stuff like that, and sort of doing my best to learn and understand, you know, who they are. I know it's pretty rough because of what's gone on and everything, but it's nice to it's been very nice to talk to them and to learn and to listen to them stuff. So yeah, it's been nice. And yeah,
Wonderful.
I was just gonna say to Noel, well, for one thing, yeah, that very much a familial history thing. You know, there's a lot of there was a lot of stuff that went on many years ago, I guess, that sort of caused, you know, a break in the family and everything. And part of the reason that I live now here in Canada, you know, and they live back in the States and stuff, was a lot to do with that. But there were a lot of things that sort of went on, and I hadn't really spoken to them at all. Well, my mom and dad, especially, for over 20 years, so, or almost 20 years. So it's sort of, you know, sort of a process of, you know, talking to them and sort of trying to rebuild relationships and stuff like that. So that's something that I've been doing for the past year, but I guess I don't really think of it as, you know, as practicing in this sense, but you know, it's just trying to build back, I guess, the relationships and the things like that. So
Wonderful, wonderful. I wouldn't be like afraid that word practicing. Yes, we are practicing. Without practice, it will be just information in our head. We need to bring it to life. Only with practice we are bringing to life. And if not the practice on our close one, on whom we will practice. To be a student, it's actually have open mind. Why we become old? Because we become stagnant, when we become stubborn. This is the signs of actually getting old. So let's be young, and let's be open-minded, and let's form our brain continuously. Oh, Sebastian, do you know, I wanted to share with you. You mentioned about some politician who said what you want to listen or to understand or to help, right?
Yeah, no, it's not a politician, but it's a political. It's someone that's very involved in politics. And he was saying that when he talks to his wife, and to me, look, kind of got into too many details before, but I started noticing that my relationship with my spouse was in the red, and I apologized and I said, look, I need to pay more attention and listen more to get that account back into balance, back in the green. We didn't mention those words, but the purpose was there. You know, you don't need to go through the whole thing. But what that, and that came down to what that guy, give me 1 second. 1 second, please. My 7-year-old daughter is singing. So what he was saying, what that I think he's a journalist, I'm not sure what it would be considered, is that whenever his wife comes to him, he asks her, is this a listen conversation, or is this a help me fix it conversation? Because
it's wonderful. Go ahead.
Because we're so different, men and women.
Exactly.
Yeah, we want to fix everything.
Yes. Then I don't need to mention it because it's caught my attention, and I thought maybe you are talking from the man perspective only, but yes, women are usually, in the mostly percentage, they just want to listen, that somebody would listen them. But my husband is not so lucky because actually I'm highly logical woman, and I think sometimes I need to listen to him, not that because he's feminine, no, he's a highly masculine man, but I'm going away right away with my suggestions. And it's actually not very feminine. So from my side, sometimes not sometimes I need to give my husband way to decide by yourself and do not go with my logic right away. But you're
Yeah.
completely right.
One of my
about
mentors, when I would come to him and tell him, hey, I got, this happened, that happened, this happened, he would always tell me, I don't care about the labor pains, just show me the baby. So in essence, he was saying, look, I don't, don't tell me about the problems, just tell me about the results. Give me a solution. Don't, that's what men usually are. But sometimes
Exactly.
there's men that are more listen to me, and there's women that are more analytical.
Absolutely,
And,
absolutely.
and I have a lot of great Russian friends, and I feel from the ones that I know, they tend to be a very analytical culture.
Mhm.
One of my really good friends, which is from Moscow, whenever I tell him, hey, you should try this burger out, he tells me, oh, I'll go do my research. I tell him, dude, I'm not telling you to hire an architect. I'm telling you to try a hamburger. But he's very analytical. So I
Mhm.
thought that it was a culture thing, but
Possible,
maybe not. I don't know. That was just my
possible,
impression.
possible, Sebastian. Yeah, yeah. Good point. Thank you. Patrick, please.
So, I mean, I don't know whether this is relevant or not, but one of the things that I try to do is basically to prime the other person with habit 5.
Mhm.
Like typically today, I was ready to go to church, and my wife was like, "Oh yeah, today I had to make lasagna for because she's in this volunteer, like make lasagna for our people in need in the community." So her car wouldn't start. I was like, "Oh, the battery must be dead, right?" So I jumped the battery, and then we took it to AutoZone, and it was like 8 a.m. The people there were not happy, right? So but so one of the things I did was, I went. She didn't want to go by herself. I'm like, yeah, let's go. I'll go before I go to church. So we went, and I basically just tell the guy like, hey, battery's dead. I hope you can help me. And I basically told him like, hey, you know what? I want to apologize in advance for asking you dumb questions that you hear a billion times, because we don't change car batteries every day, right? And then I also say I want to thank you in advance for being understanding that we're amateurs. So if you could help us find the right battery, that'll be great, right? So I primed him on that, and then he was very gracious. He did additional thing that I didn't anticipate. He basically like say, "Oh yeah, you should do this, that, right?" I said, and the thing was, he didn't. He was more helpful than being a salesperson, because me being in sales and have done it for a couple of decades, I kind of like know what where they're trying to drive things at. But he wasn't like that. So, and I think maybe it was coincidental that that it was just happening, the alignment, or maybe it was the priming. But I think one of the things that I consciously do now, since with this group, is like, instead of me just practicing the habit on my own, I could basically prime the other person practicing it as well. So this is something that I'm doing. But again, right, I know it's not exactly your homework, but I already did my homework, right? I think a couple of
Yes,
weeks ago.
yes.
So that's something that But anyway, I just thought I'd share that story, and I thought it was
Great.
interesting.
Yes, yes, I agree. It was awesome. Is anybody else?
So Patrick,
Right.
did he change the battery?
Oh yeah, he
Yes.
did everything. He was like, "Oh, I'll take care
I
of it for
think
you,
he did
everything."
yeah.
So
I never got this. I never got the solution part, so I wasn't sure if he got the battery changed.
Mhm.
it was all taken care of.
Sweet.
So guys, please remember, it's like riding a bicycle. You can read all literature, you can watch all video on YouTube, but if you won't sit on a bicycle, you never will be able to drive a bicycle. So you need to sit on a bicycle. And this is practical work, is exactly, actually you need to wet your feet, not starting, do actually something. And the last thing, I actually had another experience with my homework, and I can tell you, I pushed myself. But in both of situations, if not if not homework, I wouldn't do it. And actually, I'm thankful. This is the third victory. Also, very quickly, I have a cousin, and he's 35 years old, and for some case, I have an older sister. For some case, he still thinks that the mom should provide him. And do you know, Brian can say, it's Lina, it's not of your business to go to someone's family, but do you know, her husband died. And my parents and her parents obviously also passed away. So it's only me who grew those boys. And I'm their aunt, and she is. And my sister is very, very soft. And she cannot say something, but I see that she's unhappy as well, and my mom is unhappy. So I took initiative, and I called it to my nephew, and I want to explain him, and actually explain him something basic, that he's a man, and right now in this age, he needs to support mom. So women cannot be alone. When they're little, they need to be under the help of father. When they are grown up, it's husband, and if no husband, the children, of course, boys should support women. Women cannot be alone. And so I explained it to him, and I said that he needs to help already to mom. Of course, he was very unhappy. He was that unhappy that we kind of left the conversation on a tough note, but I actually wasn't worried much about it. Then we stopped communicating. Probably was half a year. And I wouldn't call to him. However, what was my point to call? I've my sister called me, and she said that her son came, and actually he brought money, and he bought her a new phone and something else at home. So actually he did it. And because I decided that I can close this topic, because he actually did it. And I called him, and I can tell you guys, he was extremely happy to hear me. He actually, what I'm saying, and I have tears because I really didn't, I had no idea how he will react. I thought maybe he won't pick up phone. No, he picked up phone, and he was, oh, so nice to hear you. So, this my relationship is fulfilled. So see, guys, what I want to say, it doesn't mean now that we are thinking, okay, we cannot fix anybody. It's not of my business. Some situation required it. Some situation require like purely, sometimes even something more forceful. Thank you so much. Please, Monique, what sweetheart you wanted to say?
I honestly wish you had overlooked my hand, but I wanted to say really quick that, I had volunteered to be a ballot counter in one of my clubs. And sometimes, what happens when you give too much. So long story short, I live in downtown Austin. We have South by Southwest. So we had a few incidents in the wee hours of the morning. A lot of cars were broken into. So needless to say that today when I volunteered, my mind was somewhere else on my own personal issues. And yet when I looked at the clock and I saw it was ticking and I was missing the course, I still came. Not saying that I'm perfect and that I'll be here each time, but these habits this book is doing something because like you said, it's a group effort. And I felt the need to show up, right? So
Thank you.
with the situation with the other person, like Sebastian and Noel, I too am pretty new to this course. Aside from their reasons for doing things, we're still here. And the fact that they chose to block, whatever the case may be, that's on them. That's on them, you know. They have their reasons, and I honestly wouldn't even think twice about it. I'm pretty sure that you wanted to reach out just to say, you know, is everything okay? Not basically saying come back to the course, but just
No.
saying, is everything
No,
okay?
No,
Right?
no, no, not come back. Of course not. Just if everything okay.
I'm saying that wouldn't be your purpose. You just being a human being saying, is
Mhm.
everything okay?
Yes,
And
yes.
that opportunity not being there, I wouldn't even worry about it because you haven't pissed us off, so to say. But with that said, with the emotional bank account, my brother's interesting. My brother tends to focus on things that happened when we were younger. Living in the same house, children can have two or three different perspectives depending on how many children are in the house. From my perspective, my childhood was fantastic, regardless of the beatings. You know, I was the middle child, so I was always in trouble. He seems to see something else, and he'll continuously bring that up. My focus with him is to build a better relationship. It's one of my goals because I want to know my brother. And more so, my parents have moved down to his area. They're like almost less than a mile from his home. So, you know, my parents were retired down there. And it's important that if he's the main, you know, person down there with them, that when they get older, he doesn't, you know, just be this mean person. So I'm working on my bank account with my brother. And I'm pretty sure there's issues that he sees in me that he sees are red that he wants to work on. So I wanted to say that.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Monique. Very nice. It's 5:39. If anybody wants to add something, we are here for you.
Thank you, Monique, for sharing those things that tend to be a little complicated that are a little bit personal. And I'm glad that this group, not only are we here to learn, but to share and to get better. Because when we get better, we do better, you know, and for us and for other people. So that's awesome. I'm glad to see that there's more to this, that there's more layers to this group than just, you know.
Thank you,
And I
thank
saw
you,
it last
Sebastian.
week with Brian and that's awesome. So awesome.
Yes, how I mentioned.
And I wanna take this time, Lena, to thank the person.
Okay.
I don't want to mention any names, but to thank the person that brought me onto this group because it's helped me in the long run. You know, it's enhanced my business because it's helped me communicate with people and listen more, which is one of my biggest flaws is listening.
Wonderful.
You know, so I want to thank that person. I don't want to throw in it, say any names, but they know who they are. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, now wonderful lady. Patrick, please.
I just got three things to say. First of all, Monique, fellow Texans, I didn't know you're in Austin. I'm in Arlington, Texas. Woohoo! Second thing is, Brian, if you ever seriously want to improve your communication, I remember like when I started in sales, my mentor said, dude, go take a fun acting class, right? It'll help you. So it did, because it's, you know, it's fun and it actually opens you up and also help you. It helps you understand your own personal triggers. So that's, you know, anyway, that's a thing. And yeah, and third thing, more importantly about this group, right? You know, when Lena asked me about like, oh yeah, can I share your mission statement to the group and say, I said like, you know, the whole point of me coming to an open platform like this where I really don't know you guys, right? From Adam, right? Although some of you had came, you know, to Arlington, Texas, which I had the privilege of, you know, sharing a meal or hanging out with y'all. So, but the thing is, you know, as human beings, iron sharpens iron, right? I mean, we only could get better. if we basically truly not only be courageous, but also be vulnerable, right? Because it's two sides of the same coin, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's why I'm not, when Lena asked me about, oh yeah, can I share this to the group? I was like, why not? It's not like, it's not a secret. It's like people know who I am, what I do, and things like that. It's not like, and also people know, and I'm the first to tell people that, oh yeah, I'm full of flaws, more flaws than you even ever know. So it's not a big deal. But I think what's big deal is that we ourselves have the courage to present a problem that we know that we cannot get solved by ourselves, because as human beings, as I mentioned before, we depend on each other to be better. That's just how, I don't know, that's just how the world works from my perspective, but other people might have different perspectives. So
Thank you, Patrick.
Hey,
Very beautifully said.
Sorry, Lena.
Go
Hey,
ahead,
Patrick, I
Niall.
don't care what. Hey, Patrick, I don't care what they say about you and your wife, but you guys have the best honey.
oh, thanks, man.
I don't want to
That's
drop
so
any names out there.
Mhm. Okay, guys, we finish on so great note. Patrick, it was a very good conclusion from your side. I totally agree with you. Sorry, Sebastian, if my comment is very straight. We are through 20 meetings, and we already decided and talk that through critique we are growing, and through just compliment we are unfortunately going down. Of course, critique should be positive. What is positive critique? When you want a person to be better. So this critique should be welcome. But critique, when you just critique a person to put him down, what that critique should be, no, this we need to put a barrier. Then another problem, we were talking that actually we need to find our problems. People on dependent level, they don't see their problems and they cannot talk because they don't have problems. Who has problems? Who have problems? Everybody's around. Government, Biden, Putin, whatever. Everybody has problems, but not they are. So if you are talking about your problems, of course, I don't ask you to go on the street and tell now to everyone, right? But we are in a group when we want to be better. So when we are talking very bravely, like people notice that Monique was talking, Sebastian, Patrick, Richard, we were talking very openly. It means we already not independent level, we already in independent level, or maybe even a little bit higher, because as soon as we see our problems, it means we are responsible for ourselves, right? And plus, remember we were talking that as soon we put our problem on light, that problem become disappear, not by itself. Of course, we need to work on it. But when we took our problem from dark place, we don't feed that problem anymore. When we go to light, we are showing to God, and the problem become to disappear. So don't be afraid to talk about your problem. We are here to help. We are here to solve. And Mr. Covey said that even while you are talking about your problem, not inside of your mind. Inside of your mind, you're completely in the power of your mind. When you talk openly with your mouth, with your words, you can see the solution of that problem by yourself. Thank you so much. I tremendously enjoyed our conversation. I look forward to see all of you next Sunday at 4, and we will start habit number 6. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Lena.
Thank you, Noel.
Thank you, Lena.
Thank you, Monique. Thank you, Violeta.